Tons of players do not realize that they're looking at the absolute wrong values. Now, the thing is that this is not only going to help you with skyrocketing your DPS, but this is going to give you a much better understanding fundamentally of how stats are being allocated. And it's also going to help you with better building your other weapons based off of the type of weapon it is. So I have to shout out those of you guys in the comment section on the last video, because this is a absolutely massive tip. Okay. Now, first things first. We are here on the Nestra's Devotion, and this is one of the things that I was just like, dude, a lot of people honestly don't know this, because sometimes button screens and interfaces can be confusing, and you might just come in here and you look, right? You have your applied value. That's going to be one of the first things that a lot of players are seeing, and they're going to say, oh, okay, cool. I got 63.3% firearm attack, firearm critical hit rate, 35% weak point damage, 10% accuracy -5, fire rate, whatever, right? And it's like, okay, what's going on a much deeper level? So this is not all of your stats, but this is what your modules are applying to the equipment, okay? Now, the thing is that if we hit either tab on PC or the window button on your controller, it is going to open up your weapon info. Now, the thing about this is that this is what you want to actually be looking at while you're equipping modules, because this is going to make it much easier for you to actually understand what is happening as you are adding values with these different mods. Because I know some of you guys are a little bit more visual. There's some people that are more audible, so they could just hear it and they'll know what to do. But I know people, if you're watching this video, you obviously need the visual, right? So with that, we're going to actually go to setting 2 here, because I want to start off with the no mods, so you kind of can get what's happening. So we have firearm attack here, 38,000, right? Very simple. Fire rate, 150 rounds per magazine, 8, reload time, 1.5, critical rate is 36%. Firearm critical hit damage is 2 times that, right? We have our burst, etc., etc. Weak point damage, 1.7 times. So what exactly is happening? Okay. So when you are looking at mods, we already have discussed that there are going to be mods that you're going to be equipping that is going to directly be visibly increasing your DPS, but you're also going to have mods that are not visibly increasing your DPS. And this is going to be a thing that could definitely make individuals not invest in certain things because they don't see the skyrocketing in the number. And I promise you guys, yes, DPS visually is nice, but it is not the only way you're actually scaling in this game, okay? So first thing first, we're gonna go ahead and put on all the mods that we typically are going to need. So first one, rifling reinforcement. Keep in mind, I do have this gun socketed, so this might be a little bit different for some of you guys. You might have not nearly as much cost for it. But as you can see already, we're going to be getting an additional 12,307.52 firearm attack, right? That's massive. And that's going to bring our DPS up by 29,000. Now, keep in mind, this is just the overall number that they're using so that you can just kind of have a, I would say just a overall sum of what your DPS is or how strong really the weapon is, right? Now, the thing is not only are we factoring in rifling reinforcement, right? Elemental damage is also extremely powerful, and a lot of people don't realize that. Fire enhancement is another module that I use quite a bit, specifically for this because I like having that opportunity to try to burn more, and that's what fire damage also equates to. Gives me that opportunity to potentially burn, which is pretty cool. And the way that this works is it's adding fire attack equal to 26.2% of the firearm attack. Now, the thing is that what you might have noticed is that when I equipped that, it did not directly fluctuate any of my firearm attack or any stat that's being shown here. So it doesn't necessarily show you all the stats and what it's doing. But understanding that this is an extra stat that is happening or extra damage that is happening in conjunction to the damage you're already going to be doing. So it adds fire attack equal to your firearm attack that you're already doing, right? So we're going to go ahead and equip that. And the thing that, like I said, again, show you that, right? It's not visibly changing anything, but this is massively going to help my DPS, right? Now, the other thing, okay, let's move down, now that we got that out of the way, down to firearm critical hit rate and firearm critical hit damage. It's important to actually understand what's happening. It's not as direct as you might think. When we look at this, it says firearm critical hit rate plus 35%. That is not the number that you're actually having being applied. Because if you're looking at this for those of you guys that aren't familiar with these types of games, you would think firearm critical hit rate plus 35%. Oh, wow, I have almost 71% crit rate. That's not what's happening. This is a number that is technically a decimal that is being multiplied into firearm crit hit rate. And so the actual math that's being done here is actually 36 times 0.35. And that's going to give you this number here, which is 12.6%. Okay. So with that being said, this is going to be actually adding 12.6%. Now, when we're going to click here, we're going to click save real quick, right? So that brings us up to 48.6%, right? Very, very important to note. Whereas, again, if you're looking at just the value tab, it's just going to say 35% is the added value, right? But again, going here, it's going to show you the overall. And again, it's not 35% being added, but it is an additional 12.6%, okay? So we got that out of the way. Now, again, you also have, let me see if I have it for this one. We have the concentration, right? So this is going to be giving you, so if we go up here, this is going to be affecting the multiplier, right? So mind you, this says 2 times. So when we add this, this is going to be making it, for example, if we save it, 2.64 times, okay? Or 44 times. So it's just essentially giving you more potential scaling, or it's multiplying, for example, off of that crit hit rate, right? So that's just kind of the equation. I know it's getting a little mathy, and I'm not trying to dabble too much into that, but I just want you guys to actually understand that this is just visibly going to be better for you to see, outside of like trying to do, you know, just other things, right? And just thinking the value is like, oh, it's just 32% being added. No, it is actually helping you with like a specific thing. So like it's the multiplier versus also this equation that's happening. It's only giving you 12%, right? So that's that. Now, the other thing is, okay, these I would say for most, you probably have these first 3, right? Maybe it might be a different one or another one, but these would be some really solid ones if you have enough base values to invest in, because crit rate, crit damage is not always going to be the first go-tos on your weapon, especially when you're talking about like a lot of you guys are using the tamer right now. So like, for example, let's save this, right? So let's go back. A lot of you guys are using the tamer right now. And when you look at the tamer actually has fairly low multiplier for crit rate, and also a fairly low percentage for crit rate and a fairly low percentage for crit damage. So if we go and say we have a crit rate right here, and we go to try to add this, mind you, okay, this is the same equation that is going to be basically happening. It is going to be, so for example, you're now looking at the same equation. It's going to be 10, okay, right, times 0.039, which is going to be 3.9%, okay? So we're only getting an additional 3.9% with this maxed out better enhancement. This isn't giving us directly 39%. So you think you're adding more to the gun, but you're actually not. So the thing that's actually going to be more beneficial for this gun, obviously, things like your rifling enhancement, you see that, right? DPS boost, right? That's directly affecting the firearm attack. You can add any of the elements, like that's going to be extra damage. This is actually going to be solid for any of the void intercept bosses that you're doing. It's going to help you out significantly, okay? Now, of course, with that, you would be better doing something along the lines of like adding more firearm attacks. So let's say, for example, we have the pinpoint shot, right? This is going to be adding more. Weak point damage is the extra additive here, which is the 2% there, which you'll see it affects like the multiplier by 0.02. Another thing that actually would be really, really good on here, and this is just like, for me, I haven't really been using my tamer as much. I know a lot of people are going crazy for it, but I'm not personally, because I like testing out other stuff. But if you wanted to, you could add something like fire rate. Okay, so fire rate on a gun like this, and this is why I want to swap between the two. It's important to understand like things like fire rate is actually going to be really nice on a gun like this, because this is a gun that's constantly bursting. You're shooting hundreds of rounds, within a few seconds, roughly. And then you're reloading, and then you're shooting another few hundred. Like it's absolutely insane what fire rate can do to increasing how much DPS you're able to deal per second, right? It's just like overall the entire idea. So versus like the single shot, where fire rate isn't really a required thing that I need to be focused on, because again, the entire idea with that gun is to be scaling what it does, not trying to make it do something it doesn't, right? So like, for example, this is going to be increasing a gun that is constantly shooting versus the single shot where I'm focused on more of the firearm attack, weak point damage. We'll go back to that, right? So you guys can see that visual. So let's save those real quick. So if we look at like what I actually have on here, we have like the firearm attack, crit rate, crit damage, that's the firearm added to. Then we have another one that I usually add for crit damage. Weak point damage is also going to be another thing. More firearm attack. Fire rate, again, isn't really so much of a big deal because this is a single shot. So I could say like, yes, technically adding some fire rate would like speed this gun up technically. I did test it, but it's not really justifiable for the fact of like trying to make this shoot burst, right? Like it's just a single shot. Like it's kind of a pain to do that. And you're just better off going for hitting harder with the single shot versus trying to make the single shot shoot faster, if that makes sense, right? Now, also, I have the fire conductor on here. So when attacking enemies inflicted with burn, right, which is what fire attack does, it's going to give me an additional firearm attack of 26%. And this is maxed out. And if I was to, say, for example, again, hit that weapon, hit that tab, and I actually go to, say, unequip this, there's nothing that's going to show me that this is actually an added value. And it's there, right? This is increasing my DPS. It's there, but you don't see it. So, okay. Basically, with all that being said, guys, what I want you guys to be able to take away from this video is that the values and what is required for you to be able to build up a gun super early in the game. I know some of you guys are thinking working with like, 48 cost or something like that. It's going to take you a little bit. Okay. This is now I'm starting to push. How many resets have I put into this gun? We got 1, 2, 3, right? Excuse me, we have 3 resets that we put into this gun already. We have an energy activator already on this gun. So now we have even more costs to work with, or capacity to work with. So this is what we're talking about as far as playing in the long haul and understanding investment. But guys, you're going to get to this point eventually. But I wanted to show you this so that you actually understood what was happening. Again, when we're also talking about that weak point damage, right? There's another mod that I will sometimes swap on and off. It just kind of all depends on what I was trying to do. Is the on point hit, weak point damage is plus 81%, but I think at max it's like 140%. But for me, I was kind of thinking about the fact that it's on a point hit. And so this does work really well for the single shot because then it goes on cooldown for 9 seconds. So this is another one that I could use in replacement of this. But again, it's not going to directly show anything happening here, right? It doesn't even affect the multiplier here for weak point damage. And that's literally just simply because, again, it's not, it's an extra thing that's happening when you do something. It's not just innately on the gun. So if we're looking at like, say, the weak point damage, right, you're going to see that getting added to the multiplier. That's basically what it is. And I actually already have one leveled. But that's what it is, right? So that's essentially how this all works. And it's a little, like I said, it's a little confusing at first. But when you actually get a handle of this and understanding like, okay, even if I don't see something, it's still applied and it's still helping with my overall DPS, you're going to perform so much better at so much more content, okay? So I hope that this video was able to help. I don't want to drag this on. I keep constantly getting told on every video is too long, but this one is a little bit long. But again, I really want you guys to actually grasp how this game is working and what exactly is happening. Again, if you guys have any extra advice you want to add as far as the math equations, I know that there are some people that are super interested in the math equations. So by all means, let them know in the comment section. Again, I'm not like the absolute math guru, but I am aware to what is happening. But yeah, that's going to be that, guys. We are going to be streaming on the channel. What is today? Probably tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. We're going to actually be streaming on the channel. So we're going to be grinding. You guys want to come through, say hi for the first time if you are new to the channel. I would love to see some of you guys there. I'll be also streaming on twitch.tv/ZoxysCon. But that's going to be that, guys. Everyone, stay blessed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.